right, good morning everyone, and welcome to the first session for TechEd 2010. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ryan Tarek. I'm one of the developer technology evangelists that work in DPE in Microsoft New Zealand. And I'm very excited to be here today. It's actually my first TechEd session in my career in Microsoft, so it's a bit scary, but so be gentle. So I'm actually here to kickstart your TechEd today with one of the foundational sessions. So this is something new we're doing this year to basically give us an opportunity to show you a range of features and announcements in the developer space to help you sort of get an idea of what we'll be doing over the next couple of days in terms of the different sessions and what we're going to be focusing on. So you can sort of hopefully take some stuff away from today and be able to go and decide what sessions you want to actually attend, or you may want to change some of your sessions. All right, so just a quick overview of what I'm going to cover today. So obviously developer space, so it's going to be all about Visual Studio 2010, which is great. So I'm also going to talk about why Visual Studio 2010 is such an exciting launch for us. We've also got some additional features we're going to provide you and talk about today that's going to make you more productive within the developer tool. And also look at other ways we're actually trying to help you be more productive with just the other types of applications you build across the different platforms that we have, as well as look at targeting the Windows Phone space as well. All right, so earlier this year we launched Visual Studio 2010, and this was a huge launch globally. In New Zealand we had two major events in Auckland and Wellington. We reached over 500 plus attendees, two great speakers, Sam Guggenheimer and David Chappell. And this was, as I said, a huge launch for us. It's something we've been waiting for, and actually over 6 million developers around the world have been anticipating this release. And it's never been a more exciting time to be a developer, especially if you're a developer in the Visual Studio space, and I'm going to tell you why that is. So if you look across our Microsoft developer platform, we've got a number of opportunities for you as developers to target these different areas. And one of the things we've been working very hard on is to create a consistent environment so you can leverage your core skill set to target these different areas and the new platforms we come out with. And there's three things you can do to help yourself really leverage this consistency and consistent environment. First thing is master a good programming language. Visual Basic, C#. Secondly, learn the .NET framework. Pick apart the APIs. Really get under the hood and figure out all the different APIs you have access to. And finally, find a tool that will target all these different platforms. And that's why we're so excited about Visual Studio 2010. Gives you the ability to actually use and leverage your core skill set to target these different platforms. So how many actually in the room use Visual Studio 2010? Okay, a lot of you guys, that's great. Okay, so this is going to be good. So with Visual Studio 2010, we've gone a long way in providing you more prototyping and modeling and design features within the tool to actually make you more productive and actually target these different platforms and really target the best of our platforms with Windows 7, SharePoint, Windows Phone, and now also the cloud. So you can target Windows Azure and start pushing applications of the cloud through through Visual Studio. But we're not stopping there. We're actually going out there and providing you more value with Visual Studio by providing you further features and tools to help you become more productive. So there's a couple of things we're doing. First one is Visual Studio Power Tools. And this is a set of tools we're actually cranking out quite quickly and making available to you based on your feedback and common requests. We've actually made a couple of these available over the past few months. And these don't go through the complete testing, but give you an opportunity to add more productivity within Visual Studio. And we're really looking for your feedback in terms of how this is working for you to actually think about putting this in the actual final product. So a couple of releases that we've already provided over the past few months, and this is all available now at the moment. You can download it for everyone. First one is TFS Power Tools, which provides you a process template editor and a best practice analyzer. We've also got a productivity power tool set, which again helps you become more productive within the IDE. So just removing those sort of repetitive tasks that you would do when you're actually working in your day-to-day coding, building your projects and so forth. And also we've released a SharePoint power tool set, which provides you ShareBox support for web parts and also compilation. And again, these are all available right now, and we expect to see more coming up in the future. And this has just happened in the past few months. Something else we're doing as well to add even more value to Visual Studio is deploying a set of tools known as the Visual Studio Feature Pack. Now this is something different to the Power Tools. As I said, Power Tools are really something that we crank out very quickly. We don't go through the whole testing bar, and we're looking for your feedback to get an idea of what you think to see if we want to put this as part of the final product. Feature packs are sort of the V-necks in some ways. They're actually something we're telling you that is something we want to make part of the product. We see this as something that will benefit you, and we're providing it to you right now rather than you having to wait for the next Visual Studio release cycle. The great thing about this is it goes to the complete testing bar. It's got full localization support, localization of languages and full support. So if you are using these tools, you can actually get full support and use these tools in a very productive way. And we've actually released our first feature pack not too long ago, the visualization and modeling feature pack. And this just provides better UML support and also visualization for web and native code. So being able to actually go through your projects and actually get a better view of how things are laid out. So with that, what I thought is I'd go and crank into my first demo. I've got a number of demos today, so I'm going to try to get through as many as I can so you get a good idea of some of the things we've released in the last few months, so you can really get an idea of some of the stuff we're doing in this developer space. So let's kick off our first one. All right. So I've got this enterprise demo that I'm going to be working with throughout the different demos I'm doing today. This is just a standard MVC app, travel application. Some of you are probably used to building these types of applications. I can go in here and add a new trip and get all these different options to choose your destination and so forth. So just the standard sort of process of booking flights and booking hotels and so forth. And you also get within this validation support as well through the MVC application. So we'll just wanted to show you briefly how this looks like, and I'll just save this. All right, and I'll close this down and go back to the actual project. So if we look at the actual project, you can see it's made up of a number of different files. It's a fairly big project there. And for developers, if you're working on multiple projects, multiple developers and working on a single project, it can be difficult sometimes to get a feel of what's going on, especially if you're new to the whole process of trying to understand how the different files are associated and so forth. So one of the things with the feature packs, the visualization modeling feature pack that you can that's available, you can actually go into here and use one of the tools that comes through with it, which is the architecture tools, and actually generate a dependency graph. And you can do it by website or by website code dependency. So you actually can get a good idea of the different way the files actually link together. So I've actually already done this here. Got my DGML file here, so I'll just open that up and show you what this sort of looks like. So if we scroll in, there's obviously a lot of stuff going on here, and have a look at how things are linked up. Just move that around a little bit. So you can see there's a number of different files here. You've got the edit. If we click on one of the files here, edit, you can see the different links and the associations and so forth. I can check where those links are connected to. So you get a feel of how this actual project is laid out. And I can also dive into these pages and again dive into the code and see what that code is actually doing. So just giving you an overall view of how things are laid out, making it a lot easier to work with new projects. Something else the feature pack offers, a visualization modeling feature pack, is UML modeling support. So the great thing here is I can go into and create a UML class diagram. And what you can do, what's different with this is instead of having to manually actually add classes into your class diagram, into your UML modeling class diagram, you can actually do this through the feature pack. And it makes it a lot easier to actually, just by dragging and dropping, you can create your UML class diagram. So if I actually want to start building this up, I'll just show you how to actually pop out the window. Under the architecture tools, if you look at the windows, you get an architecture explorer view, which I've already got open down here at the bottom. And what this lets me do is actually go through my project and select files that I want to actually create a UML modeling class diagram with. So in this case, I'm just going to go with the different classes in my project and just select a few and just drop it into my page. second. Got sticky fingers. Give me a second. There we go. So just selected those different classes in my project and just threw them on my class diagram, my UML diagram here. And what that does, it actually creates and populates that for me. So by just doing that, it actually saves me a lot of time in setting up my class diagram. And now I can actually look at the different associations. And what I can do now with this actual project is I can go top down and start adding classes into this and creating the associations as well. So just you have the logic now, you have the association, you have the layout of how things are linked up. I can add a class into this project and just give it a name. So we'll call this one invoice. And what I can do is now associate the invoice with the itinerary and this example. So if I just go into my controls here, got association, and I can just drag and connect these up. And now I've got that linked up. I've got the logic side of it sorted. I can go and generate the code for this particular class now and start building out the code and functionality of that particular class. So just making it a lot easier to actually use some of the visualization and UML features to work with large projects like this particular one. Something else I want to show you is the productivity power tools, which is quite a nifty little set for being a bit more productive within the IDE for all our everyday developers. So if I just look at this particular file, I've just opened one of my files here, the edit itinerary file. The first thing you'll notice with this particular file, you've got this option up the top where it says tab, tabify, untabify. One of the things you'll have as a developer working on a project, if you've got multiple developers working on projects, there's obviously different ways of laying out code. Some people will use spaces, some people will use tabs. It can be quite frustrating at times, but this is just a simple feature that actually lets you sort of keep things consistent. So if I go tabify, it'll just basically remove all the spaces and just tab everything and keep it nice and clean. Something else that I'm sure you like is if I look at this bit of code here, this bit of line of code, this segment of code, it's all laid out nice. I can look through it, but it would be a bit nicer if it was all nicely set properly so you could actually easily interpret it. So if I just use the shortcut key, Control Alt and right bracket, it just neatens that up for me and adjusts everything so I can easily actually go through it and see what's happening in this bit of code. Something else, if I used to use going home, shift end to select a line, I'm sure most of you are. Just simple things like that to make that easy. We've just you can now triple click and select a line. So just doing simple things like that. And you can also, if I wanted to go in here and select a couple of lines of code here and just move it within my project here, I can just select the Alt key and move that bit of that section of code in somewhere in a different method or wherever I want to put it. Also, we have the ability to, for those of you that like to post up code on your blogs or just share code on the internet and get comments and so forth, I can copy this bit of code and I can open a HTML page. And now what we've done is if I go into the design view, drop it in here, I've got the consistent sort of layout that you'd expect that you see in the actual coding file. So now I can actually push this up to my blog or whatever. So it actually keeps that consistency in terms of how that code's laid out. So if you're sharing your code, very easy to interpret it now for people that are trying to go through it, etc. Just going back to that edit itinerary. The other thing that's quite useful is if I hold down Control, I can go through the different methods, variables and so forth that are called up in my file, and I can just click on it, and what it does, it takes me to where that actual method's located. So just being able to navigate through the project, navigate through the different methods, and find them quite easily within your whole project, which is very useful. Something else we've also done is try to improve the reference dialog box, which is always something that's used fairly common. So if I just open that up, you'll notice it popped up fairly quickly. It's got caching now, so it's just a lot more easier to actually find what you need. And it's also got the search tool built into this as well, so I can just go and start searching the different assemblies I'm looking for to add to my project. So just making those little things a lot easier to work with. And one last thing I want to show is the ability to actually customize my tabs. I've actually got my tabs customized here, so with large projects it can be difficult, especially if you're using similar names in different folders. the ability to actually customize your tabs based on the project files, where they're located, makes it a bit easier to distinguish between different files. And you can just do that by right-clicking, customize, and choose the template, or you can create your own customized template. So if I just go back to Visual Studio 2010, you'll notice that it just removes that template I had applied to my tabs. So just those little features to make you a bit more productive within the IDE. All right, cool. So I'll go back to my dick. All right, so just showed you quickly some of the features that you can get with the Visualization Modeling and Feature Pack, and also the productivity power tools. So the Visualization Feature Pack, something to bear in mind is that it is only available to MSDN subscribers, MSDN members. So if you're just adding more value to that, it is sort of the final sort of version of it in terms of the vNext. And the next release of the Visual Studio cycle, you'll see that part of that actual product. So just adding that bit more functionality for you guys to take use while you're working with the new product. So aside from making you productive in the development environment within Visual Studio, we're also looking at how we can help you in your teams. So we understand that a lot of you work in teams, working on projects, and a lot of people are using different methodologies today to actually help them be more productive in how they build the application, in terms of going through a step-by-step process, a work item process, getting feedback from the customer, etc. How many of you people in here use Scrum as a methodology to do that? Does anybody in here use that? Few people. Okay, cool. So we've actually been given some feedback around the Scrum template and how we can associate it better with TFS. For those of you that are already working with TFS, how can we better align Scrum with that so that you guys can work within TFS and use the Scrum terminology, methodology, etc. to work on your projects. And what we've done recently, we've also launched a Scrum Process Template editor to work with TFS. And this really is about helping those of you that are already using Scrum methodology or looking to use it. This will actually make it a lot easier to work with. It's got the familiar terminology, and it's got the sort of features like define and track work items, monitor and report team progress, etc., that you can actually apply and monitor as you go through your different steps in your project. So again, this is available on MSDN, and you can download it today. All right, so if we go back to the Microsoft Developer Platform, if we just look at the server at the moment, when you're looking at building services and exposing it out to different form factors and partners and other types of code, you need to make sure that it's accessible. And one of the things we've been doing is investing a great deal in providing you the common sort of programming model to make that easy for you, make your services discoverable. So we've been investing a huge amount of time in actually working with the Windows Communication Foundation, WCF, to help you use that as a way to create your services and make them discoverable. So if you look at this slide here in particular, we've got over 40 products listed on the slide, internal to Microsoft, business products, and just Microsoft applications as well, that actually are integrated with WCF. So we've spent a huge amount of time working with WCF, making sure that it obviously works with our tools and it actually has a common programming model that works with a number of different protocols. So from HTTP to SOAP to Atom Pub, just making sure that you've got this consistent model to work with to go out there and actually use it for yourself to target different products and services for Microsoft and third parties. So if we look at the process of actually building these services, how do you go about actually starting off and building these services? And you can go ahead and build your services from using the basic WCF programming model. You can use some of the other abstracted services that we offer through WCF RIA services and WCF data services. But then you also need to look at keeping these the services, keeping them running for a long time, maintaining these complex applications. So you may need to look at using workflow services. So the combination of WCF and workflow services to manage these services, keeping them running, and so forth. Aside from that, once you've got these services up and running, you need to think about the whole process of actually scaling it out, deployment, management, monitoring, persistence. There's a lot involved in actually building the services out. And if you look at the actual infrastructure required, the services, the script, all the different processes to actually keep these services running, it can be quite a difficult and complex process. And what we've been doing is looking to provide you an add-on tool to help you with these different services. So what we've done is we've come up with, we've released something in the last few months known as Windows Server App Fabric to help you with these tasks. So if we look at what that looks like, so Windows Server App Fabric is basically an opportunity for you to make things easy in terms of deploying, managing, and monitoring your services. Just providing you a sort of a dashboard tool to set it up and actually make it a lot easier for you to find out how your service is handling requests, how it's actually receiving and taking in the different requests that you're getting. And this is available right now. And the great thing about the Windows Server App Fabric, it's available for Windows Server 2008, but it's also available for Windows Vista and Windows 7. For those of you that are developing within that tool and looking for a way to prototype your application and get an idea of how it works, you can also get the development environment to do that on those operating systems. So if you look at quickly what that looks like, I'm just going to show you a quick view of what that dashboard looks like so you get an idea of what to expect and potentially how you could use it. All right, so what I've got here is I've actually got my Tailspin application, again, the same application running now on my staging server. So it's actually running on tailspintravel.com, on my staging server, and I can, again, interact with this application. And in this case, I'll just, again, do a simple an example here just to get a request through. And we'll select a hotel. And save that. All right, so we've got this, we've put a request through on our service here, and I'm going to go to my IIS, which I've got running here, and it's actually running that service, that application. And you'll notice a few different changes here. It's got the Windows, the Server App Fabric already installed in the setup, and I'm running that. And I can look at the different services that I'm actually running on this through this application. So I've got an update itinerary workflow service. I've got a itinerary approval service and so forth that's already running. But I guess the key thing around the control dashboard here, you've got, if I fire this up, you can see you've got all these different ways of monitoring and tracking how your service is actually doing. And this is something that you could spend hours and hours actually building yourself and scripting yourself. And that's probably the sort of the process of doing it before the Windows Server App Fabric. You need to go out and create your own functionality to host your system and build out and monitor and track it. And now you can do that through this single tool. So you can download it and start using it and actually see how you can actually work with your services. So in here I can look at the different things that are offered to me. I can check what's idle, what's suspended, my instances. I can also check the history, the WF instance history, to check what services have come through, what requests have come through, and I can check on the and I can even drill down into these requests and look at what's actually being pulled through and what data is actually coming through based on how I've configured it. So I actually look at it. You'll notice that these services can also be named. The different requests can be given names as well, so it's quite simple to read through for if you have an IT pro that's maintaining this. It's quite easy for them to sort of track it and see what's actually coming through on the server end. And with this particular service, you can see what's coming through. You've got the username and you've got the request for the hotel reservation. So I just wanted to really, in this example, just show you what to sort of expect with this tool, so you get a bit of an idea, a bit of a taste of how you could actually use the Windows Server App Fabric. And there is actually a session on this that will drill a bit deeper into how to actually configure it, how to build it up, and the benefits of it. So for those of you that are used to doing this sort of stuff, it's obviously a benefit to you guys. All right. So going back, okay, so that was just a quick sort of a run through again through something else that we've provided to make certain tasks for you guys within that within the develop space easier for you to scale out and deploy and manage and so forth. All right, so moving on, if I go back to the Microsoft Developer Platform and now look at the cloud. So what are we doing with the cloud to help you leverage your core skill set to target this area? So, I mean, the cloud obviously provides a number of opportunities. We're getting to the point where businesses are looking at, loosening up capital a little bit so they can target the cloud and maybe look at other opportunities. And that's one of the, I guess, big benefits, being able to, have the service running without putting the capital to invest into a huge amount of infrastructure, but also the opportunity to scale out. If you're a startup company and you're growing, and you're not sure if you can handle the pace of growth, you can do that through the cloud without actually having to put a huge amount of initial capital into doing that. And recently we released a number of tools to help you target the cloud within your developer tool, within Visual Studio 2010. So this is the Visual Studio Windows Azure tools for Visual Studio 1.2. And this provides you a number of features to help you actually target the cloud. You've got access to .NET 4, .NET 4 APIs to actually target against the cloud. You've also got debugging support and IntelliTrace to actually work with cloud applications and test how they're working. And you've also got the aspect of packaging and deploying your application's database. So making it a bit easier to actually work with the cloud by packaging your files up and deploying it straight to the cloud by just configuring that process. So just making those little things a bit easier in terms of getting your applications to the cloud. All right, so again, back to the Microsoft Developer Platform, and now this is for the last time. If we look at the client, browser, and phone, so with Visual Studio 2010, I mean, we've got these services now running. We've got the process of creating these applications using the developer tool, and now we need to look at the end user. How do we target the end user with the different tools we have, and how do we get these great user experiences out there to these different platforms? And the great thing with Visual Studio 2010, it provides you the tools and features within it to actually target these different areas. So if we look at the different ways of actually targeting these areas, the different technologies we have, so targeting Windows desktop, targeting Windows Phone within Visual Studio now, and also SharePoint and ASP.NET. Also, for those of you that are building rich internet applications, using Silverlight to target the web as well. And then we've got the client WPF user experience, that rich user experience on the client as well. So there's a number of different technologies there that we've provided you to actually target these great user experiences, these platforms with great user experiences. However, one of the difficult things is trying to create that process of sharing logic and data across the wire. So building these applications is great. There's richer user experiences, but you've still got that difficulty of sharing that data and logic across the wire, across the actual client, server and client end. And what we've done to actually make that easier for you, we've provided a technology to help you make this task a lot easier by using the sort of a drag-drop type feature for you to do that, by sharing data across on the client end by just doing the drag-and-drop tool. And that's a feature known as WCF RIA services, so Windows Communication Foundation Rich Internet Application Services. So this is a technology that we've provided to make it easy to target Silverlight applications, web applications, and get out there and actually create a process to share data and logic a lot easier by using a sort of a drag-and-drop method approach. And I'll show that how you can do that in a second. And finally, providing you a tool that, I imagine most of you are developers in here, but we've also provided you a design tool that you can use to actually create these amazing user experiences, the single tool to target these different platforms again. So now we've got Expression 4 that was launched several months back, which can target the desktop, the phone, the web, building these great experiences. And there's a number of different things you can do within Expression. It's the single tool that not only you don't actually need to do any coding, you can build your user experiences. And the other upside of using Expression, it works very well alongside Visual Studio. So being able to cross over between the two products. If a designer is working on your designer side of things, your UI, and you're working on the developer side, it's very easy to work on that single project and work between the two tools. And I'll show that as well in a demo. All right, so with that, I've got a couple of demos that I want to go through now that I want to show you how you can use some of these tools to target these end-user platforms and show you the benefits of some of the new features within these tools and make it quite easy to actually create these applications. So let's just do that. Okay. All right. So the first thing I want to kick off with is fire up the expression here. And I've actually got the expression 4 with Sketchflow fired up. So I don't know, does anyone in this room used Sketchflow before? Oh, a few people. Cool. Okay, that's good. So for those of you that don't know what Sketchflow is, so Sketchflow is a tool that comes along with expression 4. And it actually gives you a way of making it a lot easier to prototype your application. So if you're working with a customer and you don't want to invest a huge amount of time in building the functionality of your project, or you want to build out the whole process, you can actually use Sketchflow to create sort of a prototyping view of how your application is going to look, the different pages associated with it, how it's going to actually function, by just using simple XAML code, animations and graphics and stuff, and simple tools, simple controls to actually add the click events, the functionality of it. And the great thing about using Sketchflow and using this as a prototyping tool, you can actually quite easily then translate it back. Once you've got a go-ahead on the final product, you can use some of those existing features to build out your actual final product. So it's sort of a double up on in terms of the time you're actually spending to develop your application. So if I look at this example here, I've got the Tailspin travel itinerary on this page here, and I've got this Sketchflow animation on the top here. So I've got an animation, and what I'm trying to do in this example here is I'm trying to show the customer that when they click the search button, that I want this animation to play and show them how that's going to work. So that sort of nice process of animating that little search result. So I can actually quite easily do that with the sketch within Sketchflow. So for the end customer to actually go through that experience and actually click through and see how that works. So if I look at doing that now, so if I click on the search button, what I'm going to do is use some of the new tools within expression 4. Let me pull that out. So I've got these different assets here that I can add, and I'm going to choose some of the behaviors. And the one I'm looking for in this case is just play Sketchflow animation. And if I just double click on that, it just drops it under my search button. And now all I need to do is look at the properties, which is on the right. I can just select the animations that I've built in my project. In this case, I've only got one animation, which is show search results. I'll select that. And now all I've done is I've just basically bound that animation to that search button. So if you click it, it should play. But again, what I'm going to do is just add one more little thing. I'm going to make sure that you need to be logged in before you can actually click that search button, before you can use it. So if I go down here and just have a look at my Sketchflow map, so this Sketchflow map actually gives me an idea from the developer or designer perspective of what's actually happening in my project. So how it's all linked up and the different files that are made in this example, that make up this example. So if I click on the login button, the login page, I've got this login page, and I want to somehow find a way of checking that somebody has actually logged in before they can click on the search button. So to do that, again, I'll click on the login button, go into the assets page, and add another feature known as set data value store. And all it is, it's pretty self-explanatory. All I'm doing is setting a variable to store some data. And I'm going to go into the properties page and create a new property, and we'll call it whoops, this has already been used. I've done this demo a few times, obviously. We'll call it username 5. All right, so username 5, and then what I'm going to do is I've got this advanced features within the expression tool, which I can click on, and it actually lets me, it does a lot of the work for me. I don't have to actually do any programming, so I can actually data bind this to data sources, or in this case, I'm going to element bind it to the control. So whatever data gets stored in that control, which happens to be text, is going to be stored in username 5. So now I've done that, I can go back to my itinerary page and go back to that play Sketchflow animation property, and I've also got this area where I can set a condition. So this is all without doing any code. I can set a condition to say that when the username is not equal to 0, or not equal to empty rather. And that's the condition. So as long as that condition is met, that search button will fire. And if I run this now in the browser, so you can run it, and the customer, if you look from the customer's point of view, they'll be coming to have a look at this mock-up of your first attempt at the file, and this is the actual itinerary. Just excuse the resolutions, obviously doesn't fit quite well, but I can click on the search button, doesn't work. I can log in, and I'll just put some details in there. And now if I click the search button, I get that animation. So just giving an idea to the user, to the customer, how it's going to look like. And again, with Sketchflow, the great thing about Sketchflow is they can actually add feedback into this tool, which can also be pushed up to TFS if you're working with TFS. But for the customer, say for example, they may not be very comfortable with the fact that the search button is always active, no matter if you're logged in or not. So you can just add a bit of feedback to say just gray out search button when not logged in. And we'll just add that, and that'll be pushed up to TFS if you're connected to TFS on your developer end. So that's a quick view of Sketchflow and how you can use it. So it's quite a useful tool in the way it works. And the great thing about the tools and controls you're using within Sketchflow, it's the same controls and tools you're using to build out web applications or Windows Phone applications. So it's, again, that consistent environment as a developer. If you're working in Visual Studio, you've got the same tools, same controls to work on those different platforms. And we've tried to keep that consistent within Expression as well. So what I'm going to do now is go back into Visual Studio, and I'm going to take that example and just build a WCF RIA services to expose it to my client on my Silverlight end to actually consume some data. So if you look at this project here I've got opened up, you can see there's all my different entities, my classes within my project that I'm going to use. And I'm going to start, first of all, building out, creating this WCF service. And the great thing about the WCF RIA services within the technology that's an add-on to Visual Studio, the actual WCF RIA service does all the work for you. You don't have to actually configure anything. You don't have to configure the web config file or anything like that. I can go into here, into my web project, add a new item. And what it is it's called a domain service class. And so you can sort of interpret the domain service class as a WCF RIA service that's being created for you. And what that service file does is actually goes through and checks all the different entities that are available to me to actually connect to and expose to the client end. So in this case, I'm just going to choose a couple. Flight booking. We'll just go with hotel, actually. And go OK. All right, so what happens there is actually it puts in all the connections for me, creates the service for me, and all I need to do now is go into the different aspects of the classes, of those classes that I'm calling or exposing, and just write out the method of what I actually want to spit out to the client. What do I want to actually deliver to the client? What details, what information, etc. So I've actually already done that here. I'm going to just pull that out. Just get rid of that so we don't have a duplication. Got that here. So I've got my Tailspin services file here, and I've got the lookup data file, so the flight lookup data that I'm pushing back to the client. I've also got some authentication process here as well, so I've put in some details around authentication as well. So so WCF RIA services, the service file actually handles authentication as well for you. Just making those little things a bit easier for you to handle in terms of rather than you having to configure everything and try to set up things in the config file, etc. So what I'll do now is I'll go to my client end and pull out my XAML page, which is just my itineraries page here. And what I'm going to do with the itineraries page is I'm just going to look for what data has been exposed through that service and push it up. Actually, just if you're wondering, I've already built that file, so I'm not going to bother building it again. So in this case, through that service that I've got there that I've already got in my project, I'll get a number of data that's been exposed through that, and I can actually plug into and drag and drop into my client. So the idea here is that we've used that service to actually pull out this data and make it very easy to expose that data onto the client. So I can drag and drop this user booking data onto my page. So this is bound to that specific user. And if I just reset this layout, okay, and I can fire this now in the browser and show you what it looks like. So that's a quick sort of a snippet view of what that could look like. So I've obviously not done the whole process of showing you the different parts of the different information I'm actually pulling through. But this is this project I'm running now. This is sort of the front end page, the first page that I've got. And I just wanted to show you a few things first of all before I show you that other page that I just added that data that I put in. I'm pulling all these services here, all this news information, this today's deal, through that WCF service that I've got in my project. I've also got in here, if I go and start typing away in this Silverlight application, if I click on, whoops, I also get validation support on the client end for the Silverlight application. So again, through that WCF service, you get validation on the client end without it having to go back and do a server-side connection. And then this, I can just fix this up and just go X. And I can also press the search button, and it also gives me those details. And again, I'm sorry for the resolution. I can also log into here, and the good thing about this is if I register now, I also have a little registration wizard that comes up with this. And again, just checking to see that the validation is there. So I've logged into this project already with the username deepshim. And if I go and start typing through this, again, you get that validation support here on the client end. So just saying that the username is taken. So if I go back to my login page and just log in. All right, and I go to my profile. That's where that actual data that I just created, that drag and drop, is displayed. So this is what that little bit that I did in this demo. But it gives you an idea of how easy it is to actually, create a process to make it very easy for you to drag and drop your data and make it available on the client end. So with this, I can actually have server-side scripting, sorting, filtering, and editing as well within this WCF RIA services as well, which I don't have in this example. Okay, cool. So let's drop that. So that's, again, just a quick view of how you can use that additional technology for Visual Studio, the WCF RIA services. So if I go back now and fire up this final demo, so this one here is actually going to look at taking this application, the Tailspin example, and pushing it onto the phone. So creating an application using the tools through Expression Blend and building your phone application. So the great thing about this is I don't need to be a developer necessarily. I can get someone to develop the code for me and send it to me, and I can just build out and create my application just by using the tools such as binding and so forth to display that data. So if I just go with new project, I'm going to just choose the default template, the data-bound default template. Anybody here worked on the Windows Phone development environment? Yep, one person. Cool, okay, that's great. A few people, so hopefully you'll see how easy this is to do, to even build out your own applications and try it out for yourself. So this is just the view of the actual phone. Let me just reduce that a little bit. And I've lost my properties window. There we go. Okay, cool. So this is the actual, this is just the default template. If I run this, what will happen is actually it fires up an emulator of the phone, of the Windows Phone. And this is actually basically a virtual machine running the Windows Phone operating system. So it's as close as you can get to the real device, but on your machine. So it's actually pretty good in terms of really getting a good feel of how your application is going to behave and perform on this emulator. And again, the great thing about this particular example is you've also got sample data to work with and also runtime data, so you can get a view of how it actually looks like and how it's displayed, so you don't have to generate potentially your own code if you're pulling stuff from different places. All right, so what I'm going to do with this example is I'm actually just going to pull out some existing code files that have been created for me to bind to, and I'm just going to put them into this project and then show you how I can bind to them and display that data. So first of all, I'll just go into the view models here and just replace those files with some data. So we'll do that. And I've also got this datetime value converter that I want to use to convert some of that data into a meaningful value. And what we'll also do is just change that sample data so we don't need that sample data anymore. So we'll just change that. All right, and finally, we'll just add an image so we can create a bit of feel to this project. And I'm also going to add this control that's been built up for me, which is just a XAML file that's been designed by someone else and then sent to me to actually leverage, which is sort of seen as a control, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. All right, so that's my additions, and if I just run this, just to get rid of those warnings, and that's what it looks like at the moment. There's no sample data at the moment, and it's just how you'd expect. So if I go back to my project here and work on this is my main page, my main display, and I can start editing this and start playing around with it. So within Expression, it's actually very easy to actually work with these tools. You don't need to be a developer or really have much familiarity with the tool. It's pretty straightforward, just looking at the different controls you have accessible. So in here, I can go and I can actually even go work within the designer space here, and I'll just type in some title there. Whoops. All right, and we'll get rid of my application name as well and change it to something a bit meaningful. All right, and finally what I can do is I can just click on that title panel, which is that whole grid, and just drop an image in it, and so I can have a bit of a logo. Oops, wrong place. Okay. All right, so if I hold the shift down, I'll just keep that consistent feel and look. Okay. Cool. All right, so I've got just a bit of a feel to this page and just renamed it. Now what I want to do is go into the actual content panel and start editing the binding onto the list control list items that I have within this design view, so I can bind it to data and so forth. So if I use the basic, I can go and edit the template, or I can edit the actual current template and actually look at just working with what I have. I don't have to actually add and replace it completely. So if I look at the item template, I can go in here and what I can do, so I just go into the stack panel. All right, in here I can just add, I can look at the actual properties window. And here you'll see that you can actually go and write text, you can bind to text, etc. So in this case, I'm going to go into item text and do some data binding. And what happens through those methods through those classes that I've added into my project, it's actually just made those different methods available to me, those different data that's being pushed out within Expression. So I can actually connect to any of these through those different code files I've added to my project. And all it is it's just hard-coded stuff that's being pushed out for this particular example. So if I look at the start date itinerary, and I can go into the advanced properties here as well, and I'll just choose that date time converter just to change the way that's displayed. All right, and that should give me that date. So you can see on the page there, it's added a bit of, it's actually bound to that data from my file. And I can actually go into the details view as well and also bind to one of those properties. So if I go binding here again and just choose something else, we'll go with destination and go OK. So now we've got a destination for that particular date. And I can also do a few things around here around the layout as well. So if I look at the destination view, the details control, that text control, I can go and change the way it's actually arranged. So if you're familiar with using Expression before, Stack Panel is just a sort of a layout of how you can lay things out, and I can choose the orientation of that layout. So in this case, I want to make it horizontal. And so if I look in the Stack Panel now, I've got a control there that I've just bound to that destination. What I'm going to do is just copy it and just create another control to just add a bit of text. So all I'll do is I've just copied that control, go back into here and just reset this because I don't want to have it bound to anything, and just type in some text. So travel to space and done. All right, so if I just show you that little bit of work that I've done at the moment, so I haven't actually done a huge amount. All I've done is just bound to a couple of files to pull out some code onto my project. And now I've got these different itineraries, these different travel plans that I've got, and I can now I can put something in here to actually show what the details are on each of those actually look like. So I'll go into my details page view. So it's very simple to actually navigate between the different projects and build out your application. So in here again, what I'm going to do is call this Tailspin, just keep things consistent. And I mentioned that I added this control into my project, the itinerary view detail. So this actually was built out somewhere else, but I've just pulled it into my project, and I can go into the assets page and call that as a control now. And if I click on it, I can actually just drop it into my page just by dragging and moving it out. So that's one of the features within the expression is you can get someone else to do all the work for you and just put it into here to create a simple phone application. So for now, if I run this, again, the same way, I can plug into the different itinerary details for each of those different values. So again, just very easy to work with the actual tools that you have, the controls you have. Getting someone else to actually develop the code if you're not too much of a fan of that, and actually just putting it all together to create your application. So just really making it very easy and consistent for you to work in this environment. All right, cool. So if I go back to my DIC, okay. So that so in that demo, you saw a number of different things. I mean, we showed you how you can use expression, and we showed you some of the controls, Sketchflow. We showed you how you can leverage the tools to build out your phone applications very easily. And the way it's laid out, the tools you have, I mean, as I said, you don't need to be actually familiar with some of the stuff. You can actually just play around with it. It's very intuitive in terms of how it works and how it behaves. And we also showed the WCF RIA services, the add-on technology to actually make it easier for you to expose your data to the client so they can consume it. So with that, I want to just cover a couple of sessions here that you guys could potentially attend if you're interested in finding out more on any of these different things that we talked about today. So there's obviously the tips and tricks for Visual Studio. If you're looking for the Windows Server App Fabric material, as I said, it's quite a deep session on that to give you an idea of how you can actually use it to leverage and make things easy in terms of deploying your services, as well as the other services around. We've got a number of Windows Phone services. So it's obviously, there's a lot of sessions around that. I just picked one of them that I thought would be a good sort of introduction to get started and get more of an idea of how some of these tools work, and also how you can work within Visual Studio and Expression Blend. So I can take that same phone application that I've built in my design view and also open it up in Visual Studio as well and develop the code. So again, those two tools work along together side by side seamlessly. All right, so with that, just a couple of resources. Take it online. There'll be videos on those sessions, so if you aren't able to make those sessions, they will be online as well. We'll also have this video online. And there's also MSDN, the MSDN site. So all the stuff I've talked about, all the releases, they are available. It's just that Visual Studio feature pack that's for MSDN subscribers only, but everything else is available at the moment, so you can go ahead and do a search for it and start playing around with it and have a go yourself. So on that note, I'd like to thank you all for attending this session, and hopefully you guys have a really good ticket. Cheers.